Attention passionate Cleveland, BROWNS FANS. Latest news, something big is happening in the AFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Cleveland Browns' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Cleveland Browns fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Cleveland, BROWNS FANS. Let's get to the news. Now, folks, this story that's unfolding around the Cleveland Browns is nothing short of intriguing. It's a story that involves not just the immediate game plans, but also the future of the franchise at the quarterback position, and it's creating quite a buzz among fans and analysts alike. We've seen the Browns come into this season with a lot of hope, especially after a fairly active offseason, but as always, the NFL has a way of throwing curveballs. And right now, the focus is on Joe Flacco and the potential transition to Dillon Gabriel, a young quarterback with a lot of promise. But before we dive into that, let's set the scene a bit, talk about what actually happened in the last game, and why the current quarterback situation is so pivotal for Cleveland's season. So last Sunday, the Browns faced off against their division rival, the Baltimore Ravens, in what was supposed to be a challenging matchup. And well, it turned out to be a tough day for Joe Flacco, the veteran quarterback who's been around the league for a long time, this being his 18th season, no less. Flacco completed 25 of 45 passes, which is around 55% for 199 yards. Not exactly eye-popping numbers, right? But what really drew attention was the fact that he threw one touchdown and one interception. And that interception was particularly costly because it came at a critical moment, throwing a wrench into whatever offensive rhythm Cleveland was trying to establish. On top of that, Flacco also lost a fumble and was sacked twice, which further complicates his outing. Now, that lone touchdown pass was to Cedric Tillman, a young receiver that many Browns fans are watching with curiosity. The play itself was a bit fortunate, honestly, because a Ravens defender got a hand on the ball, which then ricocheted into Tillman's arms. It was a fortunate break, but it also showed that Flacco, despite his veteran savvy, is still capable of connecting on the right play when needed. However, the overall performance left a lot to be desired, especially considering the Ravens' defense, which is known for its aggressive edge rushers and overall physicality. Cleveland ended up losing that game by a score of 41-17, a result that stings and raises serious questions about the team's offensive stability and quarterback leadership. Now, the aftermath of that game has sparked a lot of discussion. Some fans are still backing Flacco, citing his experience and leadership, especially given his long career, and the fact that he stepped in to replace Deshaun Watson, who was sidelined by injury. But others are beginning to wonder if the Browns should start thinking about the future, especially with Dillon Gabriel waiting in the wings. And that's where things get really interesting because, according to Mary Kay Cabot from Cleveland.com, there's a strong belief among some insiders that a transition is imminent. She joined the Orange and Brown Talk podcast last Monday and laid out her analysis, explaining why she thinks Flacco will keep his job for a few more weeks, but that the team's coaching staff is likely eyeing a switch sooner rather than later. Cabot pointed out that Flacco, despite his veteran status, has had some costly turnovers, including that horrible interception against Baltimore. She emphasized that the Browns are about to enter a grueling stretch of their schedule, and in such times, coaches tend to lean on stability rather than experimenting. She mentioned that the decision to stick with Flacco now is understandable, but that in the coming weeks, especially with games against tougher opponents like Green Bay and Detroit, the team might decide it's time to see what Dillon Gabriel can do. Gabriel, a young rookie, showcased some flashes of potential in limited action, connecting on 3 of 3 passes for 19 yards and a touchdown to Dylan Sampson late in the game against Baltimore. That's a small sample size, but it hints at his ability to handle NFL defenses, especially considering the challenge posed by teams with strong pass rushes like Green Bay's edge rushers. And speaking of Green Bay, the Packers are coming into Cleveland next week on a high note, having started the season 2-0 with impressive victories over the Detroit Lions and Washington Commanders. Both of those teams are playoff contenders, and Green Bay's defense looks especially dangerous, fast, aggressive, and capable of putting pressure on any quarterback. For Gabriel, that's a tough environment to make your first real start, and it makes sense that Cleveland might want to keep Flacco under center for that game. His experience could be vital against such a formidable defense, especially with the Packers' speed on the edges and their ability to disrupt offensive rhythm. Looking ahead, the Browns will then face Detroit in Week 4, another challenging opponent, but one where Gabriel might get more opportunities to develop and showcase his talent. Cleveland has some favorable matchups later in the schedule, too, like the Week 5 game against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Minnesota's defense has been pretty tough, capable of confusing even seasoned quarterbacks, but their offense has struggled to score consistently. The Vikings have scored just 12 points in 7 of 8 quarters played this season, so that could be a game where Gabriel gets a chance to prove himself in a real NFL contest. It's these kinds of opportunities that could define his future with the team, especially if Flacco continues to be inconsistent or makes costly mistakes like the one he had against Baltimore. But it's important to remember that Flacco isn't just a placeholder. He's a seasoned veteran with a history of stepping up when needed. He talked after the game about not worrying about the benching, saying, "I can't worry about that stuff anyway. It's honestly not on my mind." That attitude reflects his professionalism and experience. Flacco was the Browns' choice after a competitive four-way battle that included Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, and Kenny Pickett, who was traded to the Raiders. At 40 years old, Flacco's presence in the locker room and on the field provides stability, even if his on-field performance has been inconsistent at times. But the reality remains that, as good as the Browns' roster is, the quarterback position is still a work in progress, and the coaching staff will need to make tough decisions as the season unfolds. The big question now is how long Cleveland will stick with Flacco before giving Gabriel a real shot to lead the offense. It's a delicate balance. On one hand, the team wants to win now, and Flacco's experience can help in close games. On the other, the future of the franchise might depend on how quickly they can develop Gabriel into a reliable starter. The coaching staff's decision will hinge on his development in practice, his readiness to handle NFL defenses, and how Flacco performs in upcoming games. This situation also underscores the importance of patience and strategic planning in the NFL. Sometimes, a veteran quarterback can stabilize a team in the short term, but if the long-term goal is a Super Bowl run, developing a young quarterback like Gabriel might be the smarter move. Cleveland fans are known for their passion and resilience, and I'm sure many of you are eager to see how this story unfolds. The next few weeks will be crucial, not just for the season, but for the future of this franchise. Now, let's talk about the broader picture. The Browns have built a pretty solid roster around their quarterback situation, with a talented defense and a versatile offense. But the quarterback position has been a bit of a roller coaster for Cleveland over recent years. They've seen veteran signings, draft picks, and mid-season changes, all in pursuit of that elusive consistency. This season, the hope was that Watson would be the answer, but injuries and inconsistency have kept him from fully hitting his stride. That's why the team is exploring options, and why Gabriel's potential as a future leader is so exciting. And don't forget, the Browns have a rich history of developing quarterbacks and fighting adversity. The franchise has always been about resilience and fighting spirit, which is why the current situation is so compelling. Flacco's leadership, combined with Gabriel's upside, could create a dynamic that keeps Cleveland competitive and hungry for success. But ultimately, it's about making the right decision at the right time. Whether that's sticking with Flacco a little longer or giving Gabriel the reins sooner, the Browns are at a crossroads that could define their season. In the end, Browns fans, what we're witnessing is the ongoing evolution of a team that's striving for greatness. It's about patience, trust in the process, and understanding that in the NFL, things change rapidly. The coaching staff is watching closely, making adjustments, and trying to find that perfect balance to maximize their chances of contending for a Super Bowl. And as fans, all we can do is stay passionate, stay engaged, and trust that the front office and coaching staff are making the best choices for the long-term success of the team. And now, Cleveland Browns fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Cleveland Browns. Do you think Flacco should keep the starting job a little longer? Or are you already convinced that Gabriel deserves a shot? Whatever your thoughts, I want to hear them. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Cleveland Browns news. This season is shaping up to be one of the most interesting in recent memory, and your passion and support are what keep this community alive. Thanks for being part of this journey, Browns fans. Keep the faith, stay loud, and let's see where this story takes us next.